Tonight we've got another supergroup session with a special guest, and today we've got Nikki Wynd with us. Nikki's in Victoria, but she's not totally new to WA, and I remember sitting at an aid station at WTF back in 2014 when Nikki came through and ran the 50-miler there. And I was looking on DUV today, and I saw that it was only a couple of months after that you ran for the first time for Australia at the 100K champs in Doha.
Yeah.
And then amazingly you followed that up 2 weeks after that race with running Coast to Cozzy, which is amazing, backing up and backing up and backing up.
Yeah.
And I really think it sums Nikki up. I think Nikki's probably most well known sort of for the work that she's done on the track and also on the road at Badwater and at Cozzy. But she's equally at home on the trail, and I follow Nikki quite closely on Strava, and there's lots of trail running going on as well. So yeah, it's fantastic. She's currently the captain of the Australian 24-hour team, going to India for the Asian Championships in about 6 weeks' time. And that'll be the 7th time that she's represented Australia at either World or Asian Championships. She's raced at Badwater 3 times, podiuming every time for 2/3 and a win. And she holds the Australian 48-hour record, running a massive 343 kilometres in Canberra. I've been really lucky to have actually been at some of those events and see some of the great performances from you. And like I especially remember Badwater in 2015. That was such a special race. And I don't know if Mick's ever told you this. So I was there crewing for Mick, and when you run Badwater, I think you get to Lone Pine, which is about 200 k's in, and then you've got 20 k's straight up a mountain. Really, it's all road, but it's severe elevation, isn't it? and you've got switchbacks and God knows, and you've got that to finish the race. And anyway, Mick was sitting in 3rd spot. And as you get higher and higher and higher as you do that climb, you can look back down towards Lone Pine. And it was during the night, so I think it was about midnight or something.
Yeah.
And Mick looked back and he saw the lights from your car, and he said, "It's Nikki, it's Nikki. We have to keep going, keep going, keep going. She's got to catch me." and it was great. Yeah, obviously, I said to Mick, "Don't worry, mate. It's kilometres away."
Yeah.
It was a long, long way. And I can always remember then driving down the mountain after Mick had finished and seeing you guys come up. Like that was such a special time. And yeah, you won that and finished 4th overall, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that it was I think too, for me, the whole experience, but knowing Mick was there, Mick did so well. Like, it was so good for Aussie ultra running, and just be able to do that. And I remember we all went to the pub the next night, and just us Aussies out there showing them how to do it was such a even now, like I go, people ask me what's been my best race, and I go, it's Badwater. And just sharing that with someone like Mick and you guys from Australia being there was just it was just such a cool moment. It was awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So my first question for you, I just said fourth overall. What's your take on the overall debate?
You know, like for me, I go, I was stoked to be fourth overall. Like I go to come in like fourth behind three men. Yeah, like I go, that to me was huge. Like obviously to win female outright, but I still just, you know, like it is a race, and I go, it is one sport where men and women race together, and you know there have been races where women have won outright. So yeah, I was pretty chuffed to be like fourth out of that whole 100 you know, runners, meant a lot. But I still think, yeah, like I still see that, you know, we're different. Men and women are different. It's great to be able to all race together. But, you know, I was just happy to be able to come, I say, you know, fourth out of everyone was pretty awesome for me.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. You know, like I always feel uncomfortable, almost feeling like I can't say congratulations on your overall performance. You know, because for me, I think it's important to recognise, you know, what you've done. Yeah. Okay, so every time I've seen you run, and whether it's on the track or a Badwater, you seem so super focused, you know, and so with the team at Mind Focused Running, obviously, you know, there's traditional running coaching, but one of the things that we really focus on is sort of the mindset. So can you just tell us about your mindset while you're running?
Yeah, like it's like I always listen to music. It's something I've always done, like whether it's on the track, the road, trails. And you know, even people have said to me, how can you run around a 400-meter track for 48 hours? And I think, you know, I do a lot of sort of self-talk, self-preparation. Like I tell myself, you know, you're here for 48 hours, you've got to enjoy it, you've got to, you know, get in the zone. It's not going to go quick. Like that's 2 days you're running around a track. And you know, I think of, you know, and sometimes I'll break down the hours and I'll think of people who mean a lot to me. I'll think about my son. You know, I think about people who've made a really, really positive impact on myself, who've, you know, important people to me. And I find you can actually get into a really, really good, happy place, and the time just goes. And it's like you don't even know what's going on around you because you're so just in tune, and just it's like you're not even thinking about the running because you're in such a good, positive, happy place, and the time just takes care of itself. So it makes the running so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, we do a meditation technique called Feel Good, and what you're describing there really sounds really similar. You know, and it's getting into that sort of place and just recognizing all the great experiences that you've had and the people that you've shared them with. Yeah, yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
Things must get tough every now and again, though. Like, how do you cope with 48 degrees at Panamint Springs? Mentally.
Yeah, like even, you know, even at Badwater, I remember when I hit the front and I still had like about 50 Ks to go. And I remember David saying to me, oh my God, you've won Badwater. And I was like, I can't think about that, you know, because it was hot and like you've got so long to go. And, you know, and he kept reading that messages from people. And, you know, I had to stay focused and I had to just put one foot in front of the other. And it was actually just take it K by K by K. And just, you know, I would then give myself like little, you know, little achievements. Let's get 5Ks done. Let's get to, you know, the next main checkpoint. So just kind of slowly break it down instead of looking at this big picture, just trying to make it little small sections. And one of the things that did throw me out when we were at Badwater was the signs were in miles. So I'd see like, you know, 10K, you know, 10Ks and be like, nah, you got 10 miles. So then even trying to refocus to go, I've got 16Ks, it's not 10, you know. So it's just, I think you got to stay positive and you just got to just small chunks, like don't look at the big picture and just break it down, and whatever that takes, like it might be just a K at a time, an hour at a time, depending what you're doing. But the smaller you break it down, I think the easier and achievable it is for you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Running in the heat seems to be a recurring theme. You know, like, was it, I don't know if it was hot in Doha, but it sounds hot. Badwater 3 times,
Yeah.
24 hours in Taiwan.
Mm.
I was there, it was hot.
Yeah.
And now going to India. Yeah. So do you think you're sort of naturally adapted to that? Like, typically,
Well,
are you more
it's
suited for it than
well,
others?
I think so. You know, too, it's funny because I go, like, I live in Melbourne, it's freezing cold, and I go, like, even, you know, I go off to work every day. I've got a thermal, I've got a polar fleece, I've got a puffy jacket, and I'm still cold. So I often say to people, I'm sure my body, my core body temperature must be lower or something, like there's something not right, and I'm always freezing cold. But then I feel like when I go to the heat, like I thrive, and it's like I grow, you know, I'm 5'2", I'm almost 5'6", and I grow and I'm strong, and like I love the heat for some reason, and I find that like I feel stronger and I run better, and it also gives me a mental edge because I know some people don't cope in the heat. So it's actually good to know this is where I belong. This is probably a strength of mine, and then you know so many other people just don't cope. So it sort of almost gives you that bit of a mental edge that I'm going to cope better than a lot of my competitors out here. So that's for me a bit of a positive thing too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you prepare for it, especially in any way? Like, you know, Mick built that
Sauna.
bunker, and
Mm.
you know, and trained in that, and had the heater up to sort of 44 or 45. Did
Yeah.
you do anything like that?
No, like, to be honest, it was, you know, like I think when we went to Badwater, we went over a few weeks early. So I did have a couple of weeks in Vegas, which is pretty hot to acclimatize. But even going to India, like I suppose too, it doesn't sort of worry me going from the cold to the hot, because I actually know like I'll be okay. So I don't really do any training, and it's quite often because Izzy, who I know you've had on here, we'll go out for a run and she'll be in a singlet, and I will literally be in a thermal jacket, beanie, gloves, and she's like, "How can you be so rugged up?" And I'm like, "How can you be in a singlet?" Like, she makes me freezing cold looking at her, and I think just everyone's different. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel that's a strength of mine, is being able to cope in the heat. And even going to India, I sort of go, like, I feel like I've got a bit of an advantage because I actually love running in the heat.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a heap more questions, but I'll hand over to the team now. If anybody's got a question, please unmute and yeah, shoot.
Hi, Nikki.
Bye.
I am wondering, I've got, I guess, probably a few questions, but one that just popped into my mind was, in terms of, you can run trails extremely well and you can run road extremely well. And like, how much time do you give yourself between those sorts of events, and how much does your training change? So do you devote a lot of time to road if you're going to be running or pathways if you're going to run a track, obviously, versus, oh, I've got a big trail run coming up, I better start running on trails? Or do you feel like you're able to switch quite easily between the two without a lot of switching?
Yep, that's a really good question. I suppose probably most years now, I probably would pick, like, say 4 or 5 races. So my last race I did was hut to hut, which was all trail. So all of my training was, you know, most of it was trails, hiking, technical track. I went up to Mount Bullard to train. So I basically focused everything on that. And then once that's finished, it's okay, what's my next race, which was Canberra 48 hours. So then it's all road, flat, run, walk strategy. So I really do adapt my training to the race I'm going to do. But I also think too, you know, if I'm doing a race, which is like, say, a city race, I'm not fussed about my result. I would probably do a mix of everything, which is pretty much a lot of my training. You know, I still do a couple of track sessions a week. I still run on the road. I still I live near the trails, I'll still go and do like maybe 1 or 2 runs on the road, on the trails. But then if it's like a really great race, I really specifically train on that terrain. Yeah.
You kind of yes, led into one of my other questions I had about Oscar's Hut to Hut, because it's on my bucket list.
Yes.
And just wondering what sort of specific training you would really recommend, especially being over here in WA. Like, you know, I'm training at the moment for a race in the Blue Mountains next month, and
Yep.
we just have hills. We have no, no mountains. So, and I know the terrain of the Hut to Hut. I have been in that area before, but yeah, just what, I guess, apart from being out on the trails and training on that technical ground, what other sort of things would you recommend as good strategies for getting ready for that kind of event?
A lot of hills, like I think just, you know, a lot hill hiking, you know, get your poles out, use your poles. I actually, my partner, he ran DU down under 135 on the weekend. So I'm obviously training for flat, you know, track race. I went and did 6 hours. My arms were killing me because I used poles. So things like that, using your poles in training, heavy pack, because even at Hut to Hut, I didn't train with a heavy pack. And then when I got there, like my back and my neck, because there's so much mandatory gear and you're carrying so much food and water. And so I think it's really important to train like with a heavy pack, use your poles, heaps of hiking, because we actually said like over 100 Ks, I reckon we probably hiked probably 70 Ks and 30 Ks was running. So you actually, I think the stronger hiker you are, the better you will be, because there's not a lot of it that's actually runnable. So I think being a strong hiker, you'll do really well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the navigation side of things wasn't too...
Yeah, all very well marked. Really,
Yeah.
really well marked, really like easy to follow. Aid stations were amazing, and it's a really great event. I can't recommend it enough. Really good fun. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just on that, in terms of specificity for training, Nikki, I've seen you've been doing quite a bit on the track recently. I think you did 50K a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And a number or a couple of the guys here are looking to really do well in 24s.
Yeah.
How important is that track training for a 24-hour race, do you think? And how much should you be doing?
Look, I'm doing, my plan is on Saturday, I'm running with John Yoon, who's another, you know, he's a well-known Australian representative 24 hours. So we're planning to do 7 to 8 hours on the track. And I'll just go there and just practice. Like I've got a run strategy I want to do in India. So we're just going to go there and 8 hours, whatever we get. But I think it's hard to do it. It's hard to do that at the track every weekend. So I tend to maybe like every second or third weekend. So I did 30, I started 30 Ks, I did 50, I'll do 80. And this will probably be like my longest section on the track. It's 7 weeks for India, and then I would probably sort of start dropping back. But I think mentally it's good to know, really good to, you know, the first week I went to the track, I practiced heap of different run walk strategies, and I go, like, I've been running 24 hours now for 7 or 8 years, but I still think, you know, you can try different things, try different run walk strategies, see what works, and you can sort of get a feel of, and it was quite interesting because the first hour I just ran, the second hour I ran for 13 minutes, I walked for 2, and then the third hour, every K I walked 100 meters. And the last one, I got the furthest. So even the hour I ran with no walking, I didn't get as far as the one where I had the walk break. Right. So I think it's good just to try different things to see what works and see how you feel.
So will you choose one of those strategies for India and then stick for that for the whole event?
Yeah, so I've pretty much decided I'm going to go with the 1K and then just, and it's not so much I look at my watch and go, I'm going to walk for 100 meters, but just a walk every, you know, like it might be 80 meters, 90 minutes, but I'm going to do that every K So that's the plan on Saturday, just to try that out for 8 hours and see how far I go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you think the main benefit of the walking is?
I think when you run, I just think you need to put that walk break in, whether that's when you're having nutrition or your food or drink. And I just think more you're putting a bit of a walk in further in the back half. I think we can all run for 6, 7, 8 hours even, but it's come 16, 17, 18 hours. Having that little walk in there, I really think it just saves your legs more in the back half of the race. And I think a lot of people go out too hard and blow up and then end up walking for 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrific. Great advice. Thank you. All right. Who else has got a question?
I think this was from someone who couldn't come, but do you have any special strategies for sleeping the night before an event or keeping yourself a bit calmer?
I really, leading into a 48-hour, so you know you're not going to sleep. Like I don't sleep at all for 48 hours. I really, the last week, just into bed early, and I really think you can bank sleep, and I really try. I'm into bed early, and you know I always even say to some of the athletes I coach, you don't want to be stressed at all. So whether that's, you know, you want to be so refreshed, you want to be like up and about, you can't go into a race being tired physically or mentally. So I think both of those things, you have to be like so well rested, you know, and it is hard because I go, even for a 48-hour, trying to tell yourself, I'm going to be running for 48 hours. I'm not going to sleep for 48 hours. But that's where then I think of, you know, I've done it before. You know, I think of things to keep me up and about. And while you're moving, you're actually, I find I don't get tired. And I think if I'm really mentally and physically refreshed, then you just got to be in the moment. And I think, and you do get through it okay. And you know, I find I don't get tired. So yeah.
Last week we had this impromptu guessing who the guest was going to be thing, and yeah, it took some time to get to the end, but somebody asked for what one of the clues was. Is the guest under 50? And I was going to, I started talking, yeah, no, yes, obviously she's under 50. And then I thought I'd better check. So I did, and it was a lot closer than I thought it was.
Yes.
Like there's some, especially with the female runners, like there's some great runners in their 50s doing amazing stuff. Like, you know, look at Tia Jones, and Bernadette's in that category now. How do you think age plays a role in ultra running?
Look, like I think as I've got older, you know, I used to be able to back up and race every weekend. And I remember actually when I went to Badwater 2015, I did 300K races in 5 weeks. And my last 100K race, I did a PB. I go, there's no way I could do that now. And I think obviously we all get older. I think you just have to change your training. You know, I'm still at the moment running 160 to 200Ks a week. I find out, you know, I get a bit tighter. I'm trying to do some strength work. You know, if I feel like I need a break, I take a break. I think when you're younger, I feel like you're indestructible. So you do tend to train, like you're nice to have late nights, get up early. I can't do that anymore. Like I really need my sleep. I'm really big on making sure I get 8 hours of sleep. You know, I stretch. I do strength work. So all those things I think are more important as you get older. But I also think like Bernadette, Tia's, like they're still amazing runners. And I think too, you shouldn't go, oh, I'm getting older, like, and not still think you're going to be competitive, because I still really think you can be. And I think you just probably have to tweak sometimes your training. You can't do what you did probably 10 years ago, because I'm finding that for me.
Yeah. All right. Who else has got a question?
Yeah, hi, Nikki. I just had a question about your process and strategy for a 48-hour, does that differ much from your 24-hour, or you're pretty much doing the same thing but twice as long?
That's a good question, because I go, obviously they are two. It's funny because I suppose you start out, you do a marathon, and you do a 50, and then 100, and then 24, and even now my mindset's probably changed. I've now done a 48, but I see now like a 24 for me is almost like a fast 100K. Like it's more running, less walking, whereas I'd go into a 48 and you've got so much time. Like 24, you feel like you've rushed, you can't afford to stop, you just can't waste a second. Whereas I find in a 48, it's a lot more relaxed. The strategy I had in Canberra, I was running 4 minutes, walking a minute. And I just thought, I just need to keep doing this over. So I feel at 48, it's a lot more walking. It's a lot more relaxed. It's harder probably mentally, because it's like, this is 2 days, I have to do this. Whereas now I look at a 24 and I'm like, I could define a few gels and I'll be right for 24 hours. Like I just have to sort of run as hard as I can for 24 hours. So I think you do have to approach them totally differently, because they are two different races.
Yeah. It sounds like you approach the 24 like I approached my 12-hour the other week. Because I'm used to doing the 24-hour, and then I'll sign up for a 12-hour. It's like, oh, this is more like a sprint for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think the more you do them, like the more you sort of realize, like my first 48, I ran it like a 24, and then my next one I went, you know what, I've actually got time here, stop, I've got blisters, let's fix the blisters, like, whereas in a 24, you feel like you're panicked, you don't have time to do all of that stuff. Whereas in a 48, you're like, just get it right, because I'm here for 48 hours. And I really, really love a 48-hour race. I wish we had more of them in Australia, because they are just, I think because you've got the time, like they are really good to do. Yeah.
Thanks, Phil.
No, I'll get there.
I think people don't really realise what a sort of a team event world and Asian champs are in 24-hour running. And you're now the captain of the women's team. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah. I think after 2 years, like it's been tough in Melbourne. Like for 2 years, we spent, we could only run 5Ks, we could only exercise for an hour, and then it became 2 hours. And I think I really appreciated after, because I think like all of us, sometimes you'll put something off, and, whether it's a race overseas or locally or interstate, I can't afford it, I don't have time, I can't take time off work. And, and I really felt for the 2 years during COVID, it made me really appreciate and go, don't take anything for granted. Like if you're given the opportunity, go for it, because who knows, when you're going to get this chance again. So for me to be able to, get selected on the team and team captain, it's sort of really re-energized me again. And it's, really given me something to train and look forward to, and actually being part of a team, because I go ultra running, you train so much on your own, you race on your own. So to go into an event when you're part of a team, it's actually really, really a special thing. And it's such a nice feeling to get there and know, you're running with other people.
Yeah. And it was certainly a surprise to me when I went to my first championships, in terms of how important the actual team event was, and was more important to just about every runner on the team. The result of the team was more important than the individual result. It was terrific.
It is, and that's why I think with running, it's such a individual sport most of the time. So to be able to obviously represent your country and then do it, and I go, for me, I look back on those experiences and I go, the friendships you form, you'll never ever like forget those memories and those strong friendships, and also the places you get to travel to, and I go, even, I said people at work, I would never, like India's not somewhere I've ever gone, oh, I'd love to go to India, but just to be able to go there and go, doing it, you know, in a sport you love with people, you know, there's people on the team I don't know and there's people I know, and you come away and it's just like, it's a memory you'll never forget, and you just form new bonds and friendships. And, you know, like, you know, even with someone like Mick, I haven't spoken to him, but I go, I have so much respect, and I go, like, just, you know, whether it was Badwater on Australian team, like, you just build such a strong friendship with these people, like, it's amazing to be able to do that.
You mentioned India there, and like I certainly noticed, like when we went to Belfast, and you know, like that's Western Europe, and that was just, the environment there was so different to Australia, and the food and everything else. And then
Yep.
and then we went to Taiwan, which was that on steroids. And now India is going to be, you know, another world again. You know, have you thought about that in terms of how you manage being in that just totally different environment?
Yeah, I think too, like, obviously I think the more you're on the team, the more experience, because I remember when we went to Taipei, I was like, I didn't take anything, and I remember, you think you're just going to get what you get here, you know, you think you're going to get Coke and Gatorade and all these things. I remember walking in going, oh my God, I've got nothing, you know. So I've learned from them, and I think, you know, I'm basically going to take like everything, you know, and things like, you know, I like to have cordial when I drink, you know, sports drink, cordial, you know, my own gels. And, you know, I think I find for a 24, like, you can go pretty minimal, but I go, I will be taking every single thing I need, because I don't want to rely on hoping I can get it over there, because I've made that mistake before. And walking into a shop and you can't even read the label, so you don't even know what you're getting. So I'm going to be more organized this time.
Yeah, and I totally hear you. And it's the
Yeah.
same, like even in the States, you know, like
Yeah.
you go there and you buy a bag of jelly beans, and their jelly beans don't taste like our jelly beans.
I
You
know. Yep.
Yeah,
I
and it
remember,
becomes
like,
a
even
problem.
trying to get lollies and stuff, and you're like, they don't have Allen's party mix over there, like, you know. So all those things, you know, even Pringles, like, I love salt and vinegar chips, and I'm like, you don't get like that. They have wasabi, and I'm like, I'm not eating wasabi chips. And, you know, even some of the food at the aid stations, you're like, you know, that they have there for you to eat, and it's like, it's not something, you know, you're going to be eating while you're running for 24 hours.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's like with when we went to Badwater with Mick, we each took a bottle of ginger beer with us, you know, in our luggage, because obviously you're not going to get it over there.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, who's got a question?
What's been your biggest accomplishment, like, over the years, or I know you've like had quite a few wins, but what's the one that's for you has been the most special, or what you think's the most valued one that you've got?
Like, it has to be Badwater, because, like, I think for me, like, my background, I wasn't, like, I didn't grow up, like, you know, a lot of people come through, they're running as kids. So I probably only started running in my mid-20s, and you know, and I think it's something like to even get there. And I remember, like, the very first year I went there, I walked into the pre-race briefing, and I almost started crying, because I felt like I shouldn't be here. Like, I don't deserve to be here. And it actually felt like I was just going into a really, really bad dream, because I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I shouldn't be here. And what if I have a bad race? And, you know, I've come all this way, and the cost. And that was how I felt. And then, you know, I suppose that was the first year, and I came third. Then the next year to go back, I suppose you know, I knew I'd trained hard. I backed myself in, and I actually, I don't know, like, I remember I've got a ritual with one of my best friends. We always have a drink before I go to any race, and we still do to this day. And I remember, you know, I went through the times and the splits of people who'd ran before, and I said to my husband, I said, you know, I don't know if I'm going to win this, but you know what? I want to set myself a goal, and I wanted to go. It was the 40 to 45 record. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to put it on the line. I said, you know, like I've got nothing to lose sort of thing. And I went there and I think I just, in my head, like I was positive, I'd done the training and I just thought I've got nothing to lose here. And I just thought, I'm just going to run. I'm going to see what happens. And I've never had a race. It just felt so easy. It was effortless. I felt like I had so much time in the world. And like, I think just from that perspective of just like, it just was such an effortless experience. And then I remember walking up, as Rob said, the last hill, like, and I kept saying to my husband, how far have I got to go? And he's like, it's only like a couple of Ks. And then I go on my watch, I've just done 2 Ks because you're nearly there, you're nearly there. And I actually said to him, and he's like, you've won Badwater. And I said, I'm never running again. I said, nothing will ever, how can this experience, you know? And then like we finished and I go, it was just, yeah, like I go, it was, I suppose, a dream come true. Like when you put all your hard work, your training, your sacrifices, like getting up early, cost. So it was just like everything came together. And I remember, you know, I got messages and, you know, people texting and calling and, you know, like it was just, yeah, like I still now get emotional, like when I think about it or all the memories come up on Facebook and I sort of still go, I can't believe I did that. Like I just, yeah, it was just such, it was so surreal that actually all came together. And, you know, Mick was there and Grant Moore and another Aussie, and I think the 3 of us all did really, really well. So it was almost like the Aussies are showing, you know, the Yanks how to do it. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was good.
Wow.
Yeah.
What attracted you to Badwater, Nikki? Like, what's the attraction?
I think, you know, like I said earlier, but you know, when you start running, I think a lot of people start with the marathon, and it's like, oh, you know, what's next? So you might do a 50K, and then it's 100K, and then, you know, for me, it's like that's how I started, and then it was like a 24-hour. So it was always trying to, you know, raise the bar, do something different. Like, what's the next challenge? You know, and I think I've done pretty much almost every race. You know, I've done G&W, I've done Glasshouse Miler, I've done Coast to Cozzy, I've done North Face 24s, and I was like, well, where do you go from here? So, you know, I'd read about Badwater and it was almost like that's why I sort of felt like even to get there, like the first year, and you know, you had to do 3 milers in a year to put your application in. So even that was a challenge for me. And it was almost like just put it in and see what happens, because I sort of felt, well, that was the pinnacle almost of ultra running. So I was like, if I can just get there, and that was like, then when I got there, I was like, I shouldn't be here. Like, I'm this person from Australia, you know, like I don't have, you know, I didn't have this big following or background, or, you know, so I sort of felt like a fraud being there at the time, you know, but it was such an amazing experience just going there.
Yeah, but one of the guys who couldn't be here tonight asked a question that was, what makes you keep going back, not necessarily to Badwater, but just to these extreme events, you know?
I don't know, like I just love running. It's funny because I love getting out of bed in the morning. I love going for a run. I love the people I've met. You know, I've made such great friendships, the places it's taken me. And I think I love the training probably more than the racing. So I just love getting out of bed, going for a run. And I was actually talking to one of the girls at work today, and she said, oh, how's your training? And I said, look, I love my running. I wish I had more time. It gets in the way, but like it makes me feel good. Like, you know, it's my thing. Like I could just have time, whether it's just to chill out, to not think about things. And I used to always run and take my phone, whereas now I actually go, I don't take my phone, and it's just my hour, 2 hours of just being me. I have my music. I just think about things, and, you know, I just love it. Like, and I think while I can still do it, I still want to keep doing it.
No, that's great. Who else has got a question?
Nikki, I was just wondering what's next. What do you aspire to?
Okay, so yes, I'm going to And then I've entered the Clint Eastwood Backyard Last Man Standing, which is in August, and I've never done one of them, so I'm really excited to do that. And I always try and do something, you know, like I've done 48 hour this year, I'm doing 24. So then towards the end of the year, I want to do the Alpine 100 miler. So back onto the trails, because then I find it just changes my whole training again. So to get back on the trails, a lot of hiking, you know, that sort of training is so different from doing a 24-hour track run. So that's my plan for the November, end of November this year. And then I'm doing Delirious in Feb.
Yeah, wonderful.
Which has been deferred for so many years, like since COVID. So yeah, so that should be really good.
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
Yeah, yes. And I think it's good just to keep mixing it up, like the trails, the road, the track, like I love all of them. And I think then it just keeps your training interesting, that you're not just doing the one same thing.
Thank you.
I don't think you've done any sort of long multi-days as yet, have you, Nikki?
No, nope.
So that's all new for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I did, yeah, David did Down Under on the weekend. I was like, even that, I was like, I don't know how. That was like, that started 8 a.m. Friday and he finished 3:30 Sunday. And even then I was like, that's just insane. Yeah.
All right. Has anybody else got a question?
So with Delirious, which would you plan to have a sleep strategy, or will you just go for the whole thing?
No, I actually find it's interesting. While I'm moving, I'm okay. So even in a 48 hour, I wouldn't plan a sleep, and I don't tend to get tired. So I would, you know, like if I got really, really tired and felt like I need to sleep, I would sleep, but I wouldn't factor in like a planned sleep during the race. Yeah. Just try and keep moving. And I find while you're moving, you actually seem to be okay.
I've got one last question for you. Thinking back to your 48, was that did you go out with a strategy to run the Australian record that day? Or did it just happen?
Do you know what's funny? Like I did, and I don't know how I did it. Like I don't know. I think back then, like I was obviously, you know, that was the year after Badwater. So I just done the training, and I don't know, like it was funny because I went there, and I think when you don't know what you get yourself in for, it's a lot easier. It's like a 24-hour, you know how much they hurt. So then when you do them again, you know you're going to hurt. I think in my first 48 hour, I actually just had this thing in my head. I was just like a school walkathon. I was going to run, walk, run, walk, run, walk. And I think because I didn't know what to expect, like, you know, so I remember I knew what the record was, and I actually thought, I don't think that's hard. But now I look back, I don't know how I did it, because I go, it is a tough to go from a 24 to a 48, because I just find your body just breaks down, and I go, it's like you get all these little niggles that you don't really get 24. So I think 48 is more managing, you know, like your feet, your blisters, you know, you get like I've had really sore shins, and it's just from that run, walk. So I think a 48 is more managing those things. And the more you manage those, the better, the longer you can keep going.
And then with India, because of the heat, do you go in with a predetermined pace strategy and a pace strategy that's dialed back from what you'd normally be running? Because I remember when we were in Taiwan, a lot of the team suffered because they went too hard.
Yeah, I think this is where experience will come in very handy going to a race like India, because a lot of people go into a race and I think everyone thinks I have to run a PB. Like I've run 2:20, I've got to go 2:30. And sometimes you got to go, this isn't the race to do it. And I think a place like India where it's going to be hot, you know, I was talking to Rob Boyce a couple of weeks ago and he goes, often they get, you know, like a shower and then it comes out like really hot and humid. And I think you really have, and that's where I think experience comes into it, knowing that it's not going to be a race to run PBs. I think, you know, you might want to put an extra walk in, you know, and sometimes, you know, it might be 200 Ks might win it for the females, because I think a lot of people do go out too hard. And that's where I think if you're inexperienced, you still think, oh, let me go and run a PB here, and you're not running to the conditions. And I think people don't appreciate how much the heat and the humidity, especially coming from here in winter, can take out of you if you're not smart early.
Yeah. Do you know which other countries are going?
I think from what Rob said, Japan. I don't know if New Zealand are, but Japan, China. Like, I don't think it's going to be as big as like the other Asian Oceania champs, because he said there are still a couple of countries. I think Taipei will be there, but there's still a couple of countries that he said have got like travel restrictions.
Yeah. But if Japan's going to be there, it's going to be a tough competition, isn't it?
Yeah, no, sure. But look, I think we've got a really good team going. It is a mix of like brand newies, and some, you know, a couple of us who've been on the team before, and you know, like you sort of get the feel of, you know, like I think it'll be a really good team, a really good fun team, and I think having some experience really pays off too.
Yeah. So Cassie and Alicia are there for their first time representing Australia. Yeah. And you've sort of been there 7 times. What's the one key bit of information that you're going to pass on that will help them in their first time out there?
You know how I feel they both ran their qualifiers at Canberra this year, and I really do think you feel like you go to an Australian, you know, you represent Australia, you have to prove yourself. And I think both of them would be going there going, I've got to run a PB. Like, you know, I think they both ran about 205. So it's not like, I just think it's not the race. You actually like, I would be saying to them, don't feel the pressure that you have to run a PB. Like, I really think anything over 200, you're doing really, really well. And I think if you tell them that from the start, like you know, you sort of feel like I have to go and I have to prove myself and I have to run this and I have to run that. And I go, it's just not the race where that's probably going to happen. Be careful early. And I remember Rob Boy said that to me in one of my very, very first Asian champs. You know, he said, put an extra walk in. And he actually said to me, 200 might win this. It's not about a total, it's about a place. And I remember thinking, you know, because he had so much knowledge, and I sort of thought, okay, like he knows what he's talking about, and that made a difference to me. And I put an extra walk in, and I needed a qualifier for like the next, I think for maybe like a world champs, and he said, just get you 200, that's all that matters. So in my head I said, I've just got to get 200, and I ended up running like 212 or something, so I had a good run. But I remember, I think, probably taking the pressure off, going, just get 200 instead of going, I've got to go 220. So that's what I'll be saying to them. Just, you know, it's not the race to think you're going to run a PB. Like, that's a race probably where it's cooler conditions and everything, and probably back in Australia.
Yeah, look, I think that's so important. And even, you know, like I see it in, like, even with the trail races, you know, people go into it expecting a 22-degree day, and then it ends up being 32, but their strategy doesn't change.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it really takes letting go of the ego a little bit to say, no, this is a different day and I'm going to attack it differently. So
100%, you know, and I think there could be a couple of guys on the team. You know, I think sometimes men are a little bit, you know, women sometimes, you know, but I think, you know, a few of the guys on the team might struggle with that. So it will be interesting to see whether, you know, like someone like Stephen, who's got years and years of experience, who I think will run a smart race. And I think that's what you got to do. You got to be smart and, like you say, put your ego away and just, you know, it could be 10. Like, I think that the first year at Taipei, like Rob said to me, it's probably going to be 20 Ks off everyone's PB. And I think it was. So it's not always about the total.
Yeah, totally. All right. Okay, well, our hour is pretty well up. So thank you so much, Nikki.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, fantastic session. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure everybody else has as well, and some really great advice there for everybody. You know, whatever they're doing, whether they're running 24s or trail or whatever. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I wish everyone all the best in trails, track, road, everything you do. Just go out and enjoy it and have fun, because I think that's the main thing. And you guys are so lucky over in WA. I look at all your races and I'm so jealous.
Okay, fantastic.
All right.
Thank you.